I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And with pleasure, with the consent agenda.
I move that we accept the agenda as presented.
And second. All in favor? The upcoming select board meeting is next year, on January 4th at 5:30 in the West Bath Town Hall. Business item number 1, name online municipal vital records request service. That's a mouthful.
So I can explain this a little bit. It's a lot like the rapid renewal service that we have now where people can register their vehicles online. People can request vital records, birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates. They can request that online. There's no charge to us. It's all handled through the state. They take the payment and then we process it on our end and mail it out to them. It's a good service for people that were born in West Bath or got married in West Bath and moved away. We get quite a few requests from out-of-staters, and then they have to email me proof of identification. So this just is a little bit more streamlined, so we're not going back and forth, and I'm verifying it and then getting their payment information. And it keeps them from going to the state and having the state take that paper in, so it's a win-win.
So you fulfill the request?
Right.
That's it online, okay.
Well, I move that we begin to provide that service.
So is there a fee to us? Look at like your
Excuse me,
software
could
stuff?
you let me finish my motion? I move that we approve this service as presented. Is there a second?
I second it.
Now there's time for discussion.
So is there a fee for this, Carly?
There are fees to the customer as the credit card charges
To
a fee,
us.
but nothing to us.
Okay.
Like I mentioned before, we just get revenue from it.
So the revenue stays with us?
Yeah, the state sets fees for vital records, and so if the record is processed up in Augusta, they keep the fee. If it's processed here, we keep it, so we'll get those revenues.
So there's like a shipping fee of $15, but that's, we just,
Yeah, that's paid by the customer. The customer pays for their shipping of choice.
and then we just fulfill it. Got
Yeah.
it.
And the state gets their cut, because the state gets a fee.
$2.
Yeah.
You get 2, they get 2. Right on, okay.
You ready to vote? All in favor? Business item 2. Purchasing and bid procedures, review change order policies. If you have in the packet. We have the change orders that were given in the Birch Point reconstruction. Both of those were signed by the engineer, and as per our policy, that was sufficient.
So where is this, I thought we had a,
Public Works, section 12, on the last page.
right, up to $5,000.
Change orders of any value that are deemed appropriate by a contracting engineering firm may be approved by the purchasing agent. The engineering firm must provide the reasons for the change order in writing, and you have the change order.
The reasons are in the second block on the change order. At the top of the page, near the top of the page.
So, but this is dated after we approved it. Or actually after it was presented. So we went back and got it after the fact. It's dated on the 27th. of November. Pretty sure that was after we approved that payment and it should have been approved.
No, the effective date is November
Being
15th.
signed here on the 27th of November.
That was the second change order, which was actually a decrease. So the project essentially came in about $1,400 under the bid. But both change orders 1 and 2, have the reason written by the engineer for the change, and it had to do with material quantities.
Is there any action that is needed for that?
I guess if we're gonna have a submittal for that, can you include the backup documentation next time? So we don't have the confusion for a change order.
You mean the policy?
No, the actual change order request, when we're gonna pay a bill for $11,700, if we could just see the documentation that goes with it, because that wasn't with the change
So
order.
you want it with the bill?
Correct.
Okay.
When you're approving payment, when we sign off on the warrant, I just wanna see the documentation that follows through with it.
Okay, I'll let Julie know.
Business item 3, select board rules of procedure, receiving agenda items from select board members. Section 7 is where it's addressed.
So I just think we need to amend this policy that allows any select board member to submit agenda items. We all have equal authority in that submittal.
If an amendment is needed, it would be that a request for an item on the agenda be addressed to the town administrator in a separate email.
Well, that's terrific how we want to submit the request, but I think the actual policy needs to reflect that it says the chair shall preside.
Well, it's actually in section 7, Suzanne.
So, but it says that we need to have, I think we should have, any one of us have the authority to submit an agenda, and no one here sitting at the table can deny that if one of us wants it on the agenda.
And it has to go to the town administrator by the appropriate time. That is not a problem.
And it also says in section 10, any member of the public may request an item be placed on the agenda. I believe we also had that.
To the town administrator
In communication with the select board member, which happened, the same deadlines are set forth by that. So we need to make sure that we follow that as well.
and it needs to go to the town administrator.
So I guess we should clarify
Procedure.
whether the board wants all requests for agenda items on it. I think that's really all I need to know. If somebody asks me to place an item on the agenda, do you want me to automatically do it? That's the clarification I need.
So I think any of us requesting an item on the agenda should go on the agenda.
Yeah,
And if there's a request outside of that from a townsperson, submit it to the 3 of us so we can review that.
outside of a meeting,
We can't.
I'm not comfortable with that.
we
So then
can't-
put everything on the agenda then, because we're not gonna deny the public a chance to be on the agenda. I mean, I don't know how you.
I just need clarification. It doesn't matter to me, I just
You have,
need to know from the full board what we want.
it seems to me that if we're going to have an item on the agenda and they all have to be approved by all of us, then that needs to be done in an open meeting. and that's not a problem. If it means that the request would be delayed.
I think everything should be put on the agenda, and if we have to table something because we don't have enough time in a meeting, then we table it.
I think it's an appropriate response.
And could we specify that any request must go to the town administrator and not be included in part of a string of emails?
I have.
I would prefer that, because then it won't get missed either, if it's just direct.
Another way to approach it is that anyone can solicit the 3 select board members to put an agenda item on. The 3 select board members don't communicate between each other. Just if one decides it's meritorious, that person can submit that to the town administrator as an agenda item. Therefore, you don't end up with a collusion privacy bit.
If, can you bring us some suggested language for the amendment?
Yes, I can do that.
And just, I think under duties of the chair in the second paragraph, then the chair along with the town administrator shall set the agenda. I think we should clarify that the select board will set the agenda and submit that to the town administrator for preparation. It sounds like in that paragraph that the town administrator is actually setting the agenda.
I don't know,
Preparation.
I don't know how that would work if I was receiving feedback from the full board outside the meeting.
You're preparing it. It's when you say set the agenda, it sounds like you're determining the topics. We actually are submitting the topics for that.
Okay. Just
So
trying
it
to make
says-
sure I understand what you mean.
And it just says the chair shall. I think that it should say the select board shall, not just the chair.
So it's more about the agenda items than setting the agenda.
So well, if you look at paragraph 2 under the duties, it says the chair shall, along with the town administrator, set the agenda for each meeting. It should really be the select board.
I don't think the select board needs to. I think the town administrator can do that. If we give her the directive, the town administrator shall set the agenda with all recommendations from the select board.
Yeah.
That's fine,
Residents
as
of
long
the
as,
town.
as long as it states in here that we contribute to the agenda.
That makes sense, thank you.
And I
your-
think-
And your contributions are on the agenda.
Correct.
And the town members too. This isn't just the select board's town either, so we need to make it very clear. Either we're gonna be inclusive or exclusive.
No, he's saying that our
Right.
requests even from them. He's-
Right, but we gotta remember to include. If
Everyone.
David wants to come and say something and not include us in that, for whatever reason, he should be able to do that also.
And can we change the 48 hours to, you know, we have here on the Thursday preceding the regular schedule, it's, I think that's, we're not, I don't believe 48 hours is enough to allow our town to see the agenda. I personally didn't receive any notification of our agenda for tonight. I had to go to the website to get that.
Right, because we didn't have power and I couldn't put it together. So this is extenuating circumstances this time.
I saw it today.
Yeah, I sent it out.
Right, but we traditionally get it from her, and so the town got it, but we didn't get
There
it.
wasn't any electricity.
She got it done.
Today.
Yeah, and you're all on my list.
Right. I got mine.
Yeah.
So my point is with 48, I don't think 48 hours without a storm is sufficient time to notify the residents on what the topics are if they'd like to participate. So, how would we say, the Monday by 9 AM preceding the meeting of that week? Because you're only giving 2
So,
days.
tell me the time again.
By
Monday.
by 9 AM Monday.
I can't do it by 9 AM
Let's keep
Monday.
it simple. Why do we have to make this so complicated?
Well, it's 2, I don't think 2 days is enough, so what
I
time
don't
frame?
either, but I don't think we have to do 9 AM by,
So Monday morning, or by Monday. I mean, I don't know what,
Something simple.
It does, it takes a significant amount of time to research items and put a packet together, so I don't wanna bind myself to like
So
9
why-
AM on a Monday.
Can it be 1 week prior to the actual meeting?
I'm fine with that too. 1 week prior is terrific.
Too long?
Yeah. I think.
I don't even have agenda items
It's
on
gonna
it.
cut things too close, I think, if somebody thinks that something happens on Tuesday.
But we shouldn't be doing it that way.
But if it's on the agenda, 2 or 3 days should be plenty of time to put something on the agenda.
With telephones and the internet, why does it have to be more than 48 hours?
We don't post it in enough time for a resident to see it, so that if they want to participate and schedule around that, I think we need to give more time for the community.
Isn't the agenda and the whole thing published 48 hours prior to tonight, to like 5:30 tonight?
Typically.
Yeah, typically,
Yeah.
so that's what I'm saying, is typically 48 hours, I think, should be, as, if it's much longer or further out than that, people will look at it and say, oh yeah, well, I'll think about that later, and then they'll forget. So I think that it needs to be in a timely manner, like 48 hours makes perfect sense to me, I don't think there's any excuse. You can be someplace else and check the agenda.
Getting an agenda out, and if there's a revised agenda, I don't see any problem with it. You know, some things will come up. If you get it out early, something comes up, you just issue a revised.
Are you talking about the agenda or the packet or both?
The agenda.
Okay.
I think the agenda should be published more than 48 hours prior to the meeting. Mr. Winter?
Yes, the town administrator, if the town administrator does not have enough time to put together an appropriate package, it still opens for a little discussion and then you table it so you have time.
Because you know we're all reasonable.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
You know we're all reasonable in the public.
Absolutely. So I guess, Kathy, what was the timeline that you said?
Just make it a timeline. I don't care what it is, but if we do 9 AM by such and such, just.
Monday preceding the meeting.
48 hours has worked fine for the last 5 years, 6 years, 7 years.
Well, personally, I don't mind getting an agenda out earlier. It's the packet that I'm concerned about. Because sometimes it takes a while, or I don't have information in time from other parties
And I think
to get the packet together.
if it is an emergency or something, we're gonna add something to the agenda, so it's not like we're gonna keep something off just because it's not on the emergency. we're gonna put it on.
It's an
Yeah,
emergency.
so,
Just, I move that we change the timeline in the duties of chair for office at least the Monday preceding the meeting. That we publish the agenda.
so be more specific in your,
I move that we change the 48 hours prior to the meeting for publishing the agenda to the Monday preceding the meeting to publish the agenda.
Is there a second?
so that's a week, Susan?
It's 3 days.
3 days. I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Business item 4, committee appointments, review of current members and openings. So you have that in your packet. We currently have vacancies for alternates on the Board of Appeals and a vacancy on the, for an alternate on the Board of Assessment Review.
So I thought we had a timeline that if you hadn't participated in a meeting, you were automatically removed from that position. Is that still not the case? Christie?
I have to review the policy. I'm not sure how it's worded. I think the way we're handling it currently is that if somebody's not participating, they just wouldn't be reappointed when their appointment comes up. That's the way we've been handling
I think the language says they may be removed.
it. Maybe,
And I think it's the guidance of the town attorney that, and for anyone to be removed, there has to be a hearing.
Okay. I wanted to continue to publicize the vacancies. There are 2 vacancies on the planning board for regular positions, and there's an alternate position that's vacant. So anybody who's ready to volunteer,
So are these all 5 position boards or committees, I should say, or task force?
No, a lot of them are.
5 plus 2?
No, a lot of them, like the Board of Appeals, is 3 regular members and 2 alternates. A lot of them are state statutes.
So if we could,
So that's why it has the people and the alternates. So all the positions are there. All the available
Got it.
positions are
Okay,
accounted for.
understood.
Like, forget how many are on the.
So there's 6 on the budget committee, that's,
What's up?
there's 6 on the budget committee? Is that a set number? It seems like there was more last.
7.
7 regular.
I don't know that there's a policy on
There
that.
isn't a policy.
Because it used to be 5, and then Peter Osaretko wanted anyone who wanted to participate, to
Yeah.
participate.
The last number of years has been 7.
Yeah.
But there's no limit. I'm just trying to figure out where we are, and what the openings are, if there are any.
If you get too many on the committee, it's kind of hard to get things done sometimes.
business item 5,
Well, so, where I have, so we also have a policy that states you can only be on 2 committees. I think we need to review that as well. We're not following that.
Well, the language is, if someone is on more than 2 committees, they may be removed. So that's not must,
Yeah.
just,
And when you're including a task force, what's essentially a task force, like the comprehensive plan committee, where there will be a point where they don't serve. That, I can understand not including that as part of the number.
I just think we need to follow policy, whatever it happens to be.
may is not shall.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, so it really leaves it to
May
the
is not
discretion of the
shall.
board.
But we need to tighten that up, because I've heard all of us sit here and say, why is this person on more than 2 committees? And then we all say, yeah, I don't know. And then now we're saying it's may versus a month ago it was shall. I think this is what gets us in trouble and why we have disagreements and why we can't get along. Is we can't interchange these words as we feel like interchanging them. It's either may or shall, and let's stick to it.
So I'd like to table business item 4 and review that with the policy as it
Is
stands.
that a motion?
I move that we table business item 4 until we can review the policy and determine what the next steps and path forward are.
I second that.
All in favor?
And I don't care which way it is, as long as we determine as a group which way it's going to be.
Yeah,
Understood.
clarity is always good. So are you wanting to review it just with regard to how many committees people can serve on?
The whole thing,
The
the
whole thing.
policy, how many committees, what the limits are to numbers of participating, if there are any, just so we have that published, and then what a plan is on how we want to fill those, how we capture some new folks from the
And
community.
maybe even what the towns, what your responsibility is to the budget committee and what Julie's is. Because what I've wanted all along and I struggle with is Julie not being a part of some committees that I think she should be. And I don't know if that's Julie, you, or I think she should be part of anything to do with budget.
I agree with
Yeah,
that.
she's always welcome up to meetings.
Right, do we get to the point where it's part of her job description to be at certain budget meetings?
Okay.
Like she said on the planning board.
And it may
years ago.
not be,
Yep.
I may choose not to, but
Well, she didn't sit on the planning board.
She was the
She was
Yeah, we need to
reporter.
be real clear that we're not members of committees.
She leads.
I just want to make sure that everybody understands that.
And the only reason I mentioned budget committee is, it's much easier if you have a question, if we have people who know what's in the budget, if they're present to be able to answer some of those questions. So maybe they don't need to be to all of them, it's a discussion we're having.
Well, and we're trying to figure out as we potentially roll out some new, ideas on how the numbers are presented to us, and, where each budget sits and what's remaining for expenditures. We touched on that at the last meeting. I think that it would be beneficial to have some of those discussions with her.
So there's a motion on the floor to table and a second.
Yes.
Are we ready to vote? All in favor? Business item number 5. We've had an in-person resignation from the planning board by Jamie Wallace, and we have not officially accepted that resignation. So I will move acceptance of Jamie Wallace's resignation from the planning board.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Business item 6, American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, fund balance and proposed use. And we have an update we have in our packets.
You could probably use a copy too.
So the total amount that has not yet been expended is $40,528.89, to be specific.
So we had a negative 740.53 from the heat pumps. Can that not be reallocated?
We allocated $18,000 specific to the heat pumps, so you can certainly allocate an additional amount from ARPA funds to cover that shortfall.
We have 40,000 remaining.
Yeah.
40,520, so that makes sense.
And with the recent power outage, I was thinking it would make a lot of sense for the town hall to have a generator, a standby generator.
I think that makes a lot of sense too.
I think it's a really good use of ARPA funds.
Having the town office closed for 3 days is a major inconvenience.
Yeah, it really is. We can't be here to serve the public or answer questions if somebody's having an issue.
And
And-
paychecks didn't go out till today, and they didn't go out yesterday.
And I was feeling pretty squirrely not being able to work.
And when the temperature dips, it becomes a liability and
Yeah, it affects the building itself too.
Do we have a ballpark figure yet on what it might cost?
Well, I asked John and he thought it would be in the vicinity of around 10 grand. Certainly something we would go out to bid on.
So we had, so the appropriated, so we've got, for the roller doors, that's been approved, is not spent, is that correct?
Correct. PDQ went down and measured everything and they were supposed to come back with a proposal. We haven't seen it yet, but I expect that project will be done soon.
When did that take place, recently? Did they come in recently?
Yeah. And some of the projects that came in under budget, those funds can be reallocated for different uses, but they have to, the town would have to vote to reallocate those funds,
The town or the select board?
the town.
And I move that we authorize Christine to seek out bids for installing an automatic generator into the town hall.
Should you say an accompanying equipment? And you're probably gonna need some lines and some stuff to go with.
Propane tanks and whatnot.
Authorize the installation of Did you get that, Carly?
So what other avenues?
Could I have a second on that before we continue discussing?
I second.
Okay, now we can discuss.
Well, I'll hold that until we lower it back then. You vote on the generator. I know the dialogue about what other things we should spend it on, but it's not tied to the generator, so we vote on the generator first.
Okay, all in favor?
So what other avenues, Christine, are you thinking that that ARPA covers?
Yeah, well, I'm certainly, I want to continue with the building maintenance, for this building in particular. And a couple of the items that come to mind is doing the vinyl flooring in next year's budget.
Out of ARPA?
Yeah.
So did the paint and all that come out of ARPA?
No, the paint and the carpeting came out of the $20,000 that we put into the building account, building maintenance account.
Why would that not have gone through the ARPA if we can do?
Just
vinyl
because we
flooring?
didn't vote on it. Any ARPA funds the town would need to vote on, and the carpeting and we didn't have the town vote on those items.
What's the timeline to spend the ARPA money?
It needs to be obligated by December 31st of 2024, and it needs to be spent by December 31st of 2026.
David?
Do we have a problem with the Disabilities Act on the front door? of the
Well,
building?
that's the other item that I want to look at, because I think with a few tweaks, we can,
Auto open
yeah,
And down here too?
down here too.
And the other question I have is the side door entrance to the fire station, which is usually used for meetings, is very hard for some people to open up.
Yeah,
So I think that should be looked at too. If you're gonna use that room more often, it's used for other public functions. We should look at either adjusting or replacing that door to make it easier to get in and out.
yeah, thank you. And those are exactly the items that I'd like to see addressed, and I think ARPA funds are a perfect use for those kinds of projects.
Any more discussion?
Well, I move that we get estimates on the ADA door compliance for the two here at Town Hall and one over, and figure, do you think I think a door opening for that would work also.
I'm not sure what it would take, but it should be looked into either way.
So an two ADA doors here and then one at the fire station, to get estimates on that as well.
Especially if you're getting the door coming to look at those folding doors for the kitchen in the fire station. They could probably look at that door and tell us what you have to do to make it easier to open.
I'll second the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor? Business item 7, town office schedule for 2024. What's coming? You have the dates in front of you. I move approval as presented.
Do we always close 3 days for Thanksgiving?
Yes.
The bank closes at noon, the day before Thanksgiving. Oddly enough.
But they're open the day after. I mean, would it be better to have the Monday before Christmas as a 3-day weekend versus the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, we talked about that this morning.
I mean, a lot of people aren't necessarily expected to be
Yeah.
closed.
Consensus was that they wanted to keep it this
to work a day and have 2 days off when you come back.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second? Do you want to table this?
It's the same amount of days that we normally have. It's not, there's no changes to it.
I just think it makes more sense to do it the Monday before Christmas and the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. You're breaking up the schedule.
Well, and what about New Year's? That's on Tuesday, Wednesday. Can you get that Monday too?
Well, this year it was a Monday. I mean, it's just,
Right,
you kind of, it's
yeah.
you're breaking up a week. I think it's,
If the staff, if this current staff is okay with the way that the schedule is, and it's the same number of days that were given last year, I don't see why there is a problem.
I think there was some concern about not being available 2 whole days before Christmas to the public, where it is close to the end of the month. Julie has a lot of end of the year reporting that she does, so she didn't want that to be interrupted. And my 2 cents was that we all have vacation time, so if someone wants the extra day, they can take the extra day, or on the other side of it, and take the Thursday, Friday.
I'll second it. I don't care.
All in favor of the schedule as presented?
Madeline, can you ask all opposed?
All opposed?
Thank you.
Sorry. Where am I? Let's see. Okay, town administrator's report.
I don't have anything to report.
Correspondence? We have received a letter from Sally Daggett concerning the revaluation contract. And I would like to read this into the record. We have looked, this is from Sally Daggett, our town attorney, we have looked at your question below as well as the 2 attachments, the contract with Parker Appraisal and the West Bath Appraisal Manual 2023 that Parker Appraisal prepared for the town. We believe the applicable legal provisions are as follows. Section 4 of the contract, assessment manual and instruction. All schedules, tables, and formulas developed and utilized by the company while doing the revaluation shall remain with the town in the TRIO software system, which can be utilized for future assessment by the town. That's a quote. Analysis from Sally. The manual provided by Parker Appraisal appears to meet the requirements of the contract. The manual contains schedules, tables, and formulas for determining valuations. It contains codes, descriptions, and amounts for elements of the assessment in addition to exemptions from taxation, all of which should be useful to the town's assessing agent or board of assessors to calculate valuations within the TRIO system. This includes 101 different land schedules, codes for dwelling styles and features, and exemption codes. Her second point, Title 36 of the Maine Revised Statutes, Section 331, any municipality performing or contracting for the performance of a revaluation after January 1st, 1987 shall use or require the use of the state assessment manual or another professionally accepted manual or procedure. Sally's analysis. The statute allows for the use of any professionally accepted manual or procedure. It doesn't have to be the state assessment manual. We believe the TRIO CAMA program would meet that requirement. Point 3, Title 36, Section 331 1B, each professional assessing firm performing revaluation services for a municipality shall provide the municipality with papers and information necessary to conduct future valuations. Main Revenue Services, Regulations 18-25 CMR, Chapter 201, Section 02E, says, upon completion of a revaluation, a firm must present the municipality with documentation that the municipality can use to follow through with implementation of the revaluation and to make any future value adjustments. This documentation includes, but is not limited to, 1, a complete set of property record cards, either printed or electronic, detailing the construction of each building for all property within the scope of the revaluation, and 2, all grading and pricing schedules used and documentations of any methods and procedures associated with the revaluation. Ms. Daggett's analysis. There was no mention of property record cards, so that would be need to be provided to the town if they hadn't already been. The grading and pricing schedules appear to be in the printouts from the TRIO system that were attached as the manual. While we are not experts on TRIO, it seems that the program, in addition to the printed out manual, would contain the information needed to provide future valuations as required under state law. Signed, Sally Daggett, Esquire.
We're missing the comps. And that is a significant part of the process that does not allow anyone filing for an abatement to be able to determine the abatement amount in that. Mr. Winters.
If I can comment,
You are not the chair of this committee.
Madam would like to address you, Mr. Winters.
Mr. Winters.
if I might comment, a concern of a number of us is, although there are parameters, for example, in Parker's manual that they used in TRIO, there is no presentation of what the basis of that parameter is, how it was derived, and therefore no one in succeeding time can say, does this parameter need to be adjusted, because they have no idea of where that number came from. And in standard good revaluation practice, you need to not only say, here's a number, you need to say, this is the basis for it, and that is necessary if one is going to do some modification in the future, if you see the basis of that has changed. In terms of the requirement that they provide all the formulas and this and that and the next thing, they have provided a number, they have not provided how that number came about, and that is what is necessary for the future, and to properly evaluate the accuracy and validity of this evaluation.
Right?
There is no financial analysis contained in TRIO. There is no grading contained in TRIO. You don't know what an A is, you don't know what a B is, you don't know what a C is. TRIO does not have the ability to contain the data you need. You can back into it, which is what we did when we hit Mount Vernon, because they had a sewer backup which flooded their manuals because they put it in the basement. We picked up properties that had not been assessed in 7 years, 9 years. I am experienced CMA. You can't get there with what you got. I couldn't do it, and I can wing a lot of things. As she says, we are not appraisal or assessing estimate experts. It's just not. It's not there.
And it states also, you know, with state law, that we're supposed to be given all of the paper documentation to be housed at the town hall, of which we do not have. We don't have what they use to tabulate their valuation. And each asset that was used and each comp that was used, and the state stipulates that the three of us learned on our last assessing hour and a half class, that you take out the bottom 15 and the top 15% of those comps and use the 70% average to create a value for a property as a comp. We don't have that, and they're supposed to provide all that they used in that valuation, of which we have none. So we don't have what was committed in the contract. I disagree. I'm not sure Sally was given the whole picture on this.
Well, you can see my question on the second page.
I'm reading it, and I don't think she was given the whole picture on this.
I did my best with the information that was given to me at the last meeting. I tried to get specifics.
I thought we were gonna have a meeting with the town attorney. That
We
was
did
kind of,
not talk about that at all.
I believe we did at the last meeting, that we were gonna have a conversation with the town attorney.
I don't recall
I'll review the tape.
Can you, three of you sit there and with a straight face say that an analysis of the sales that took place in this town all round out to an even $20,000 or $25,000 number?
Nope.
Can you say that with a straight face? Because that's what your data says. That's what your cost table says. That in-depth analysis all rounds to 50, 25, or zeros.
And we have a letter that we didn't talk about, that came in from a form of communication, which is from the Johnsons. And they sat at our last meeting stating that they don't know what value to put on their abatement in request because they don't have the formula or the information to come up with an accurate determination in value. So we haven't provided that information, nor were we given that information to the constituents of West Bath. Well, he's got a question for you.
One of the initial questions was, what is tidal? What is deep water? What is mudflats? 5 months later, can you answer that question? And if you can't, you haven't been given what is owed you.
I can't answer that question.
That is a grade. That criteria will not fit in TRIO.
I move that we invite our town attorney to come to our January meeting and discuss it with the community and the board on clarification of what we received and did not receive. I'd like to speak with her, and I'm sure our community would like to hear from her.
It's now or it's later, you're gonna suffer one way or the other.
In order to get past this impasse, I think he's right. I think you need to have a face-to-face conversation. The town will bite the bullet, pay for it. But that's the only way you're gonna get to have the conversation, the questions given directly. And then you can't blame the schemes are not going to get the questions that you thought you were answering. Just get it out in the open and just do it. It's not gonna get any better.
My concern is I thought we had asked to talk to Parker Raisins. We've gone through this 2, 3, 4 times. We hadn't. I thought we had asked to talk to Sally. Here we are.
Well, then let's just do it. Let's just say it again. and let's do it.
I'm fairly certain that that was in the, and I'm happy to watch the movie of it.
Yeah, I did not get that from the last meeting, but
I'm
it's possibly I faded out. Okay.
confident that we move, that you speak to the town attorney on Friday morning,
Yeah, that's when I sent the email.
and that we were gonna have a meeting with her.
I
we
didn't
requested
hear
that.
that point.
Well, so I guess I'll restate my motion. I move that we have our town attorney participate at the January meeting so that she can address our questions as well as the questions of the community on how our revaluation process was, and did we receive what we need in order to meet the demand of West Bath. There's a motion. Can we
I'll
decide?
second it.
Thank you.
Discussion. We cannot demand that Sally be at a particular meeting without consulting with Sally's calendar.
I'll rephrase that motion, that we, at her first available time for us to communicate with, as early as possible.
Preferably in the next meeting.
Absolutely.
If you're gonna invite her to a meeting, you should let her know what the specific questions you want answered.
We've done that round
No,
too.
We have.
Not to her. I don't think they've been presented to her.
I don't think we
Because
were either.
if you don't let her know what you're trying to look at, trying to gain, she's gonna say, okay, I can review this, and you'll be sent back more time.
I don't,
I mean, there are certain questions that Mike has mentioned, or Steve has mentioned. If you can address those questions beforehand to let her know that that's what we're looking at, it might speed the process up a little bit.
well, now that you say this, my concern is she gonna be able to answer our questions?
Well, that's what I'm
Because a lot
saying.
of our questions are,
If you give her a little advance notice, she may be able to research them a little bit.
But I think you all need to research your questions too, and make sure you enunciated clearly your specific concerns and how to ask how to deal with them.
We submitted those, I submitted a series of them for Parker Appraisal to address that they never came to the meeting, that are very specific and that talked about the comps and all that. So I have we have those
already have
questions.
to just send it on to her.
I'm okay with that. And I think we should also include the sample of the manual we received from Pittsburgh so she can see the two different manuals as well.
What date is on that manual from Pittsburgh?
I want to say it's 2010, yeah, I was gonna say.
Don't you think that just 13 years are relevant to what was going on now? Can't we use current stuff?
It's presentation of ideas versus information. I want the presentation of the data to be similar to what we received. I'm not looking at their values, I'm looking at
Could you
how the
get-
values were
Could
presented.
you get another one so you're not just using one from a different appraiser?
I can certainly ask around, but I think we
I
can.
think that would be a good idea, so you actually have a good comparison.
so this says all scheduled tables and formulas developed and utilized by the company while dealing with the reval shall remain with the town. Do we have any of that?
We do not.
Yes, we do.
No, we
have what
don't.
is required by law, and that's what Sally's trying to say.
We don't have the formulas. We don't. We don't have the schedule of tables. We absolutely do not have that.
I think we need to show Sally what we have.
And
So
what we
she
don't
can-
have. That's,
She can see what we have.
You need to, what you need to show Sally is what you don't have.
Well, I don't know what we don't have according to state law.
Well,
She
CMA
needs to
has
decide
sat
that
here
for
and
herself.
told you what you don't have. And
But scheduled tables and formulas developed, and it's saying we should be able to do our work from that. So what is that?
It's what's in Trio, it's what I figured out for you.
and there's a statement on the Trio page.
That's her perspective at this point.
That states that the Trio formula should be easily discernible by us as the board, but equally as discernible by our community as they tabulate their valuations. And we heard from the Johnsons in their last communication that they don't have what the tools they need to do. Specifically, in this letter that we received, they do not have the tools they need to submit their abatement.
What does that mean? If they don't have a computer, they don't know how to use
Well,
videos, they don't
no.
know how to access the drugs? What does that mean?
They don't have access to hold it.
Why can't we do this? We don't have the
We
tools
don't have it either.
either.
We don't have it.
You have access to Trios, don't you?
It's Trio, what we received from Trio does not, if you look at the value, we'll talk about like waterfront, what Steve talked about. There's grades of waterfront. You've got deep water, we don't have that stipulation on if deep water is a 1 and title is a 0.5, which is how your valuation changes or fluctuates. We were not given that grade of value on every parcel and every piece that goes into your valuation of the property. What's the difference between 3-bedroom and 2-bedroom? What's the difference between, how old is the house? There's a whole bunch of formula elements that go into that we absolutely did not receive. Nor do we get the comps. Every time when they look at a valuation on a property, you're supposed to find the comps in the town. And they're supposed to print that out. So when someone has a question or they are opposing the abatement denial, they have the right to see what comp was used in that value determination. They were not given that information.
So that was supposed to be in Trio?
It's supposed to come with, I don't know, that doesn't come from Trio, that comes from the abatement.
I has the floor.
I think I was still talking, but that's okay.
There's a couple of, you can get, if you look at what Pittsburgh has as a grade B, okay? That is, I call him a tough grader. His B is not a B in Woolwich. I can picture what a B is in Woolwich because I see what a B is in Woolwich, but I can't say what one is in Pittsburgh. You don't have the flashcards that say, that the public can look at and say, oh, that's a B. I'm a little bit better than that, or I'm a little less than that. That is people language. What you don't have, waterfront. Simple freshwater waterfront. Keep it simple. In Noblesboro, the first 10 feet is the same as 100 feet. That is because a detailed market analysis said that that is true in the town of Noblesboro. That doesn't mean it's true in the town of West Bath. That is why you can't grab one town and throw it into another, because the Constitution defines it, after the Supreme Court has redefined it, as fair market value. And it is limited to the municipality. That is why you need what he did, analyzing his West Bath sales, going back in time. Pittsburgh's market is not the same as West Bath's. When you step over the line, it has different schools. It has different politics. It has different people. It has different neighborhoods. All of that influences your value.
But
It ain't hard, but you better know what your pieces are.
based upon your knowledge and taking location out of it, should we not be able to at least look at something and understand how gradients are established, whether it's new, 25 years, 50 years old, deep water, tidal, all of those pieces should be in a standard presentation to a town, regardless of where they are, whether they have waterfront, whether they have, and that's what I believe we're missing, whether we look at the manual that we were presented as ours or what they had from the Phippsburg manual. It shows gradients of age, gradients of waterfront, gradients of product, whether you have a new kitchen, and I believe they haven't called it modern when I looked at the property card. So there's gradients of structure that we weren't given in the guidelines of that manual.
It gets a little more complicated, and Trio is relatively simple. Vision is much more complicated. Vision, you can stretch your cost pieces out, or you can drop it on the top. You need to know how it was done. How is more important than anything else. Waterfront, a peninsula. It is perfectly valid to take that on a square footage basis. It is perfectly valid to take it on a circumference of running waterfront basis. It is perfectly valid to take it on a tie line the line across your frontage, not following your ins and outs. But what you need to know is what was done in the past, so that when you get a split, that you can be consistent with the method that was used for everybody else. Because it is equity that is the goal. Equity is everything.
And consistency.
Consistency is equity, yes. We're not, the more you know about assessing, the more scared you are for the town.
True statement.
So is Sally gonna be able, if we bring Sally, is she gonna be able to answer the questions that we have?
I think if we send her the information in advance, I have a copy of the Phippsburg manual. I don't have any other towns. Christine, could you procure some of those?
Mike?
Brunswick has it, Thompson has it, I'm sure Bath has it, I've never seen it. Justin's obviously seen both of them. Justin stepped in to Brunswick briefly. He didn't like the way Vision was set up. He didn't like the neighborhoods. That's why he left. He went back to the Revell Company almost a year after the Revell Company was said. He said, I don't like the way the neighborhoods are described. It's confusing the public. And they looked at it and they said, oh, you're right. And they sent a new page that clarified, that was more understandable to the public. That is responsible behavior. If you want to make it clear to Sally, take his grading, his pictures of, this is the house I used to analyze.
But we don't have that. That's the problem.
It's in the Pittsburgh one.
Oh, we have it there. Yes.
And try to show something that is comparable in Trio.
And Ms. Spears, the age of that is irrelevant, whether it's 2010 or 2023.
It's a little relevant, because it'd probably be better now.
Well, but it's going to at least show the gradients and the pieces to it, whether it was done. We're not looking at the value. We're looking at the process.
He has a cost analysis in it, and I haven't looked at it in a month, and I never used it, that says, these are my sales. This is the ones I took out. He did it, and you can see it. You don't have to agree with it, but you can see that the work was done. That page, try to find that in Trio. You're not.
So we have a motion, I think.
So we do have a motion.
Could you give us the motion, please?
So I move to have the town attorney attend the earliest possible meeting.
And there's a second?
No.
Okay.
Because I think that's when I asked you.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Select board comments and announcements. I have a comment, several actually. At the last board meeting, a citizen made the rather dramatic assertion that the town of West Bath is broken, and a select board member repeated the statement, and I most emphatically refute that. Our town is not broken. Our roads are in good condition, very good condition if you compare us with some of our neighboring cities and towns. We've completed 2 major road projects that benefit Birch Point and Sabino residents. We've accomplished this without indebtedness. We have a modern fire truck, again, accomplished without accumulating debt. And we have, unlike many towns, an active volunteer fire department. We have a well-maintained school building despite its age, And we have an educational program that teaches our children to think objectively and creatively and to work cooperatively together. We have an active parent and community group that supports and enhances the lives of our students. We have an active historical society that not only publishes an informative newsletter, but also organizes a very popular annual holiday carol sing. The Historical Society also helps to maintain our historic buildings and have provided funds for us to preserve fragile documents that date back to the founding of the town. Our recycling committee recommend the Garbage to Gardens program, and West Bath residents have been taking advantage of this opportunity to compost with regularity. We are not a broken town. Each member of our office staff has certified qualifications for the work they do and regularly participate in appropriate continuing education courses. The select board and the town administrator have updated a variety of policies, including personnel, committee standards, and purchasing policies. The change of real estate assessing and billing software that the town treasurer and the former assessing agent have been asking for since I was elected to the board in 2015 is now done. Our treasurer has worked hard to learn the new federal tax policies as she puts into place a new payroll service that will make compliance with those policies much simpler. Our elections are well organized and our polling places are effective and welcoming. We have a large voter turnout. We're in the final stages of a comprehensive plan which has been developed in consultation with many of our town's residents. The land use ordinances are being worked on by a professional consultant to ensure that our ordinances are clearly written, more understandable, and that no section is in conflict with another. We've joined in the Community Resilience Partnership to study how our changing climate is impacting our shorelines. The Energy Task Force has made recommendations for new windows and heat pumps to increase energy efficiency in the town hall, and those have been installed. The security system for the town hall and the fire department building has been updated. We now have a full-time codes enforcement officer, which we did not have when I first took office. And because he is also our part-time fire chief, we always have someone who is qualified to drive that beautiful new truck, which was not the case until the two positions were created. We've developed an updated contract with Casella that will both benefit the town and that business. We're in the process of working with a private company that will build a solar farm on town-owned land for which they will pay rent. That company and the Saginaw County officials have worked out an agreement that will allow the county to build a desperately needed new communications tower that will be helpful to the entire county. We are not a broken town. We have some difficult issues before us, and we have differences of opinion about how those issues are to be faced. But that is the very purpose of government, that members in any given community come together in good faith to listen and to speak and to find solutions for any given problem. Solutions that will meet the needs of that community. I believe that we are all in this together and that we are by no means broken. In fact, we are healthy and whole.
You're here. May I say something? I think the select board is a very, very difficult job. And one reason right off the beginning is you sit up there and you have to look at whatever community shows up and face them. But it is also very dependent on you all doing your homework. And particularly with this revaluation, it's so evident, there's so much information that you all need to take in to be able to do this job. And I think that it's imperative that you take the time to do that. A lot of, I think some of this, or a lot, could maybe be solved with more homework on your part. Unfortunately, as I understand it, you can't talk to each other outside. I don't know if you can ask Christine questions, but I think that it's imperative that there needs to be more conversation, trying to understand the aspects of this and the aspects of talking to the town attorney. And I think it's very imperative that you think very carefully of how you formulate your questions for her. I commend you taking on the job, but I also say, come on, you have got to learn to talk to each other and make compromise. Because this is stupid if you keep tabling the stuff that's difficult and never get it done. It's only going to make everybody more complicated life. So let's try to work together and be kind and listen and not be mad and keep repeating the same thing. Let's try to reword things, rethink things, so the goal can be met.
I just want to make sure that we, I've received, much to some people's dismay perhaps, a lot of complimentary emails for sticking with this. And I know that you are quite confident in your reevaluation. I think that's great for you, but there's a lot of people that are not. And I think it's important that we make sure we do this the right way, that they have the confidence that it was done properly, and a lot of them do not right now, and we need to solve that for them. And I think that's what the big hurdle is we have not done that.
Well, that's true, you haven't done it, and you keep working on it, but if you keep repeating all the negativity, it's just like the Emperor's New Clothes. Everybody believes it. Let's try to say, gosh, this is difficult. We may not have the information. We're working on getting the information. We may not understand the information. We are not professional assessors. We do have some people in the group that are, but we're trying to learn the process and try to be positive on how you approach your information to others in your board and to the community, rather than running everything down, because then everybody will begin to believe you. So let's see some positivity, I ask you, please.
Can you show me what's positive about the reevaluation?
I can show you that it's positively necessary that you try to learn more and be able to talk to each other.
The problem is that our
If you sit up there and keep saying, we gotta do this, we gotta do this, we've gotta do this, this is done wrong, you know what? You're not gonna get anywhere. All you're doing is making people mad. So, can you investigate? I thought that, can she talk to the attorney herself?
The attorney has directed the board that communications need to come through the town administrator.
Okay. So what it looks like is maybe there needs to be a meeting of the board and the administrator and the lawyer.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, let's say that. We're trying to get a means to the end.
The problem is February 28th is the drop dead date, let me finish, for people to file abatements. We have a 6-month window and that's it. We can't go beyond that as a state requirement. So every time we extend this and don't address this, we can't meet the requests of the community.
So what you're saying is the other two ought to always agree with you so you can meet a deadline.
We have to meet a deadline, it's required.
No, you answer my question.
I don't know what the question is.
That the rest of the board should always agree with you so you can meet the time frame that's necessary.
I think one person on their board agrees with me and one person disagrees with me. We're
Well,
not gonna always.
if that's the case, the vote should come out 3-2-1.
I believe it has.
I'm not aware of that.
Has one particular case.
Anyway, what I'm trying to
But
say,
This,
do you get my point?
I understand your position, I may not agree with it.
No, okay, but do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand your position, I don't agree with it.
Is
Well,
there,
we're very clear because you say everything as many times as you want, and I'm tired of listening to you. You could try to be more pleasant.
is there other public comment?
I have one more comment about something else entirely.
Yeah.
I'm worried about talking about the door to get in here and at fire station, and you're talking about ADA compliant door. I'm worried that if it's ADA compliant, it also needs different steps or ramps, because I don't think this is ADA compliant.
No.
And that side door at firehouse certainly isn't.
Right, and we're at.
So it will all cover that. I just want to make sure that was covered.
Steve?
I don't have a comment on this current discussion. Is the chair done with her comments?
Yes.
Right, so are we open for public comment?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to make a public comment. My name is Steve Winter. I'm a West Bath resident and taxpayer for the past 48 years. I have lived in the same place for the past 48 years and care about my town and its proper governance. I want to comment on what I perceive as problems with the current West Bath revaluation and what I think the town needs to do next. In my opinion, the contract for the revaluation was not sufficiently detailed to ensure a competent revaluation. Nonetheless, Parker Appraisal still did not fulfill the terms of the contract or follow standard good revaluation practices. They have not justified their results or properly interacted with taxpayers. Of most importance is that Parker has not provided any justification of any land valuation parameters that they used. Parker has not provided a sales analysis of West Bath properties, which is the foundation of any revaluation. What should the town do now? Parker needs to provide full documentation of its valuation parameters and methodology. Were parameters just lifted from another town? The parameters are required by the state to be derived from town of West Bath sales data. The fact that Parker did not fulfill the requirements of the contract should be sufficient leverage to encourage some compliance. A serious discussion with Maine's Revenue Service that oversees revaluation and certifies Maine assessors should be held as to Parker's performance and their future ability to do work in Maine. Next, the town needs to hire a qualified, part-time, on-site assessing agent to help unravel the situation and properly interact with taxpayers. Although a separate hire of an assessing agent has not been planned for, it's critical for a proper relationship with the town's taxpayers. These taxpayers, after all, are very important since they are the ones paying the bills. If the town needs to have a special town meeting and secure a loan, so be it. It needs to be done. In any case, something needs to be done and done now. Just muddling on and sweeping problems under the rug is a disservice to the residents and taxpayers of Maine and West Bath.
Is there any further public comment? Mike?
Pretty simple one. I think you might actually, if you reversed your order of the meetings and had your board of, your assessors meeting first, when you were doing multiple abatements, the people might be a little calmer because they wouldn't have been sitting here for an hour. So if you did one, closed it, and then started your selectmen on those nights, I was just thinking my goal at least, yeah.
Good comment. Anything else?
I just want to say, what do we do now? We said, ask Christine to bring the lawyer to a meeting with all of you. Have we given Christine the direction to proceed with looking for our, an assessor position, part-time or full-time? Do we have to get the budget committee working on the allocation of funds for that position? Have we done any of that follow-up for hiring an assessor?
We allocated $20,000 for an assessing element in our last year's budget. So we have $20,000 in there to allocate today that was approved by the town.
Okay, but we haven't started the process of looking for an assessor.
No, that, we haven't really, I think, come to a definitive decision on that yet. I think we talked about adding that to the January meeting, but we have allocated $20,000 to accommodate an individual.
Is that reasonable at all from our assessor experience?
You'd be damn cheap.
Yeah.
Yes,
Uh,
ma'am.
One of my, assessing is, it's math, it's also communication. I foresee a serious problem with the public's reaction to asking a question, having it relayed, have it sent off to, and I don't know terminology, to a Wizard of Oz, behind the curtain analysis, and then come back. I don't think the public, even if the message was exactly the same face to face, it's not taken the same way.
Further comment? Steve?
Is there going to be an agenda item on possibly hiring a part-time on-site assessing agent at the next meeting or two?
I believe that the request has been made. I think we have some assessing things that may or may not get handled next time. But it would seem to me that we could have that discussion either January 4th or the following meeting.
I move that we add it to the January 4th agenda, as it's, we can't keep waiting with the February 28th deadline.
Is it possible the board could authorize the town administrator to start approaching this and surveying if there's anybody available who would want to get involved with this? Even those broad discussions before the next meeting.
I believe we had someone volunteer to do that.
Well, no, I'm not saying that, I'm saying have her, have our town administrator do this. As far as hiring someone, that's a further discussion, but right now, just start the process and see the availability of anybody to do this.
So would this be an RFP? Is it a, I mean?
No, it's just,
It's just putting her, calling her
informal,
contacts.
informal emails, conversations on the phone or whatever, just to start the process and see where we're gonna be.
And what it would cost.
Have you ever been to a board continuing ed meeting? We're old. It's, you may ultimately end up growing your own from the bottom. They can start not being certified. It's gonna be a tough job. Somebody sharp, growing your own, might ultimately be your best bet.
But I would like to see the board start the informal process now, rather than wait 3 weeks and then start over again, and then at least we know where we stand, or don't stand.
We need a second for that motion.
I'll second it.
And Jane?
I was gonna say, I met a young man, a little young compared to me, who was the assessor, I believe in South Portland. And you probably know his name. I can't think of it right this minute.
South Portland's, flip through, South Portland has up to 4 at a time.
Okay, Sandy and Jim. I saw it at home just before I came. So I was gonna say, I'll send it to Christine. He is trained, he's retired, but he is training assessors. So he might be a good person to contact, but the other thing I was gonna suggest that you might consider is if he's training, they're paying to get trained, the town help pay someone to get trained with the idea that they would work for us for a while. It might be an incentive to point someone in our direction.
There's that apprentice program.
I'm sorry, so I
Nope.
can't think of saying that succinctly. And I'll lose my voice.
I'd had better yet remembering names, better chance a few years ago.
Can't remember.
A key consideration would be how part-time would be. That's a very nebulous thing. And my suspicion is, once things got rolling, it could be very part-time. But with the difficulty we're having with the revaluation, it would need to be front-loaded for one to get up to speed, two to try to correct things, and then things should settle down. But the whole question of part-time and how much, when and where will be an important part of the puzzle.
You being the one who went up to the Grand Hall up there, sat there for a week, the failure rate is about 70% on the test to be a CMA.
It's an
One-
8-hour test.
Once you pass, you are just beginning to be barely qualified. But it is a very supportive organization. It's on the serve all the time. What do I do now? And the answers come back. You can grow your own. And your own tend to stay rather than hopping around. There's some assessors are jumping from town to town to town. So if you can find somebody and build yours, that's the way to do it.
Okay. We'll take your advice under advisement.
Good luck.
Yeah.
I know.
So there's a motion on the floor
Yes.
to discuss at the January 4th meeting.
And it's been seconded.
And it's been seconded. You want to set the date, or do you want to get preliminary discussion information?
I think if we put it on the agenda, just keep talking about it, then that way it can't.
Fall off the agenda.
Yeah.
Would that be asking, give Christine the authority to start the groundwork?
So does she need authority, or is that something we expect in a town administrator?
Well, I think it should be presented to her that you would like to do this.
Well, this is part of the issue, Kathy, is that at some meetings I have authority, at other meetings I don't. I have no clarity in my position. If I act and I haven't been directed to act, and somebody doesn't like the results, then I've overstepped. If I don't act and I'm expected to act, then I'm not doing my job. So role clarity is extremely important.
Okay, so we have a motion to keep it on, and seconded to keep it on the agenda. Okay,
For January 4th.
for January 4th.
So we'll vote on that and then make it right.
Okay, so all in favor of January 4th discussion?
What is the agenda item called?
A discussion of the creation of a part-time position
Okay,
and of assessing agent of the town of West Bath.
okay, perfect, thank you.
Now, I move that we authorize Christine to begin initial inquiries about such a position.
I second that motion.
Is there discussion?
Isn't there a list on the state website of assessors and companies that are available to do that?
Yes, there is, but that doesn't go far enough. That doesn't really tell you who's available or what the description for the position should be. There are many different items that you would need to explore if you're going to consider hiring a part-time assessor's agent.
So if we're gonna talk about it on the 4th and leading up to the 4th, you're gonna research it, what are you researching?
It might involve other towns that are looking for part-time assessor's agents, what the description of the position is, what kind of responses they're getting from people applying for these positions, who might be available,
Potential salary would be one.
potential salary. I mean, it's going to encompass a lot of stuff.
We can't be the only town going through.
We're not. And I know that other towns are not finding anybody, so just temper your expectations.
That's what I've been hearing too from this young man who's training people. Young man.
It's all.
He looks a hell of a lot younger than I am.
See,
One thing I want to emphasize, I sent each of you a note with a little more detail of why I believe Parker has specifically not fulfilled the contract, even the contract we have, for a number of somewhat picky items. But the general item that I believe that is, and we can hold them feet to the fire for those, but in particular, the general, somewhat more amorphous item where they have not fulfilled the contract is that they have not provided the basis whereby anyone can go further or reconstruct the revaluation that they have done. They have not provided the basis for any of the parameters that they injected. Rather, we have a trio with a parameter that we have no idea how that came about. And until they provide that, the town does not have the basis to further refine or expand upon the revaluation.
So let me ask you, because I'm a little confused. If we don't have that basis, how is getting another assessor in here going to happen?
That's part of the problem. That's why Parker has to be forced, if necessary, they should volunteer what the basis of their analysis was. And our suspicion is that they don't have a basis.
So we could be putting the cart before the horse.
In any case, it has to be done. That's the problem. The final thing is it has to be done. And if Parker will not provide the justification for its numbers, that's a question for the Maine Revenue Service and the certification of Maine assessors.
It's a question for the attorney.
yes.
Yeah.
Charlie, where are we in the motion?
There's a motion and a second, moving to authorize the town administrator to begin inquiries into, I don't have the exact line of it, take for the exception
Potential
agent.
part-time.
Yeah.
Is there further discussion from the board? Public comment?
Answer the Catholic. He is capable of doing the work, even in retrospect. The numbers might change, but he is capable of doing the work. He's also entirely